Hi everyone, it's Mike here. So this weekend here in the UK, it's Father's Day and I need to make a card to send off to Dad because I won't be seeing him over the weekend, although he has already got his Father's Day present. I purchased him a large bottle of whiskey last week. So I'm starting off with a piece of A4 black cardstock, which is approximately £140 or about 350 GSM. Now this is almost a 6 by 6 inch card. So whatever size you can get out of what your standard paper size is. So if you're US 8.5 by 11, then you'll get probably about a 5 3/4 inch square or something like that. So it's almost 6 inches. So all I've done is I've trimmed it off and then scored it down the middle. And then I have a piece of watercolour card, which is just about 1/8 of an inch or about 4 millimeters shorter. And that's what I'm going to use for my base. So there's a 2 millimeter gap all the way around, or about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. I'm going to put the black card base to one side and grab the Vintage Photo Distress Oxide from Ranger and Tim Holtz. I'm going to put some on my craft mat and activate it with some water, and then just drop the cardstock in and randomly pick up splodges of that brown ink all over the card. Now I'm predominantly working towards the edges, so I just want the edges covering. I am going to add some patterned paper over the top of this, so really I'm creating a distressed kind of grungy border all the way around the outside of the paper. When I'm happy with the coverage, I'm going to grab my heat gun, give it a good blast to make sure it's all nice and dry, and then have a quick tidy up. So now that my craft mat is clean and my cardstock is dry, I'm going to grab a sheet of paper stock, patterned paper stock. Now this was recently sent to me in Happy Mail, and I'm just going to cut a square which is smaller than the watercolour cardstock. Again, only by about 4 millimeters or about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And then I'm going to grab that Distress Oxide, and then I'm going to add some of that ink just around the edges. So once I'm happy with the depth of colour, I'm just going to clean off the excess from my craft mat and then grab the watercolour cardstock and then get some spirit glue. I'm using the Collall multi-purpose spirit glue. I'm just going to add some to the back of the card or the paper. Now my glue is coming to an end, so it's a bit difficult for me to get the last remnants, the last few drops out, but you'll see I keep shaking the bottle to actually get it to move down to the nozzle. I'm using this spirit glue. It allows me to have a little bit of a wiggle room before it grabs so that I can position it exactly where I want it to. So I'm happy with that base layer for now, so I'm just going to pop it to one side and then grab my first focal image, and this is one of the cutout paper dolls from the Tim Holtz paper doll collection, and I'm just going to go around the cutout with the walnut stain distress marker just to get rid of those white raw edges, just to tidy it up and blend it all in a little bit better. So when I've finished with the little boy cutout, I'm going to bring in some alpha chips that I've got again from Tim Holtz, and I'm just going to go around the edges of those as well. So next up I have the collector layering set from Tim Holtz and Ideology, and I've taken out 4 pieces that I want to use for my cluster on the front of my card. And grabbing the Distress Oxide again, I'm just going to go around and cover the raw edges of all of those layering pieces from Tim Holtz. And for the tag piece, I have a piece of string that I'm going to thread through, but before I do that I'm going to add some of that Distress Oxide ink across the string just to kind of grubby it up and distress it a little, make it a little bit darker so that it fits in a little bit more. I'm just going to loop it through the hole and then pull out that end through to create the tag hanger. Also got a packet of small split pins or brads in a bronzy kind of colour, which I think would look good in there too. So I'm going to push that through the hole and then just open the arms of the brad on the back. Just adds a kind of nice metallic accent to it. So next I'm just going to grab a baby wipe, because I noticed that I still have some ink on my craft mat and I don't want to start contaminating my images. So I'm just going to wipe it and dry it off. There you go, you can see it was still dirty. So the next step is for me to position the layers where I want them to go in my cluster. So I'm just going to lay them down and then work out the best position on the front of the card. When I'm happy with the positioning on the front, I'll just take it off my focal point and then grab that spirit glue and then start gluing the cluster together. So once the cluster pieces are stuck down, I still have some wiggle room because I've used that spirit glue to be able to maneuver and just push and reposition until I'm happy. And then I can add the final piece, which I'm going to add with a couple of foam pop dots just to the back to give it a little bit of dimension. And then I'm going to do the same for my little boy focal point. Just going to add a row of those foam dots all the way down the middle, and then I'm going to cut one of those circle dots in half and then just stick that on his hand so that the hand is supported too. And then all I need to do is to remove the backs of those foam pads, and then I can stick him into position. Now it's time to add my alpha chips, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing with those. So I'm just going to add one pop dot onto the back of each of the alpha chip letters, and then I can position those starting with the A so that I can work out exactly where the D's need to go above and below to make sure that I've got an equal distant gap. But I'm going to just put them slightly off center. I decided at this point, rather than gluing the main panel down onto the front of the card, I was going to raise that up on foam dots too. So I'm just going to add 5 foam dots, one in each of the 4 corners and one as a supporting piece in the middle. I'll just peel the backs off and then I can stick that in its entirety on the front of my black cardstock base. So trying to maneuver it to make sure you've got an equal distance all the way around, so you've got a nice black border which is equal without getting your head in shot is kind of difficult, but I think I managed it. So now that it's stuck down, just want to make sure that the card is perfectly square. Then I'm just going to deal with that stray string. Now I think the best way to deal with it is to add a foam dot or a little foam pad just in the corner, which traps the string from then getting out and flapping around on the card. But of course I stick it down in the wrong place, so I have to put a second one on, this time further in to make sure that it can't be seen. On a project like this, there's always some fiddly little minor adjustments that you need to do to get it to look perfect. So once I'm happy with that, I can take the top off the foam dot and then I can trap that string underneath and then stick it down. Then I can adjust the string without fear of it flapping around and getting loose. Next up, I'm going to grab another spare piece of watercolour cardstock and I'm just going to cut a square of the cardstock so that I can add that to the inside of the card for somewhere to write. But of course I need to get it to blend in, so I'm going to grab the oxide, that Vintage Photo oxide ink again, and then just blend all the way around the outside just to give it a little bit of a grungy, dirty border, and then I can stick that on the inside of my card as the perfect panel to write my message. So I'm just going to grab that spirit glue once more, just add a border all the way around and then just a little bit across the middle, and then I can open my card and drop the panel onto the inside of the card, but because I've got that wiggle room I can get it perfectly so that there's a perfect border all the way around. And that's it, card complete. All I have to do now is to write in it and get it in the post. I hope you enjoyed watching me creating the card for my dad for Father's Day. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up, share the video with all your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. And I'd also like to say a special thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. Thank you. That's all from me for now. I'll see you all again real soon. Bye for now.